Okay, let's look at the homework 1.3, problem number 6. Alright, so you have f of x, which is square root of 5 minus x. G of x is square root of x squared minus 9. Right, so we want to find f of f plus g. So that's just the sum of these two functions. So it's a square root 5x plus, oh sorry, have 5x minus x. Right, then plus square root, so click on that, let's see, square root x squared minus 9. Right, then we want to find the domain. Actually, let's just type in all these functions. So it's the same thing here, except that for the minus sign. So I'm going to just take that and put it in. Let's see, or actually we can't do that, so I'm going to just type it again. Let's see, yep, so 5 minus x, and minus, then you have square root, right, then you have x squared minus 9, oops, x squared minus 9, and f times g, you can just multiply them together, so we can probably just put it under the same square root. So it's a 5 minus x, then you have a quantity x squared and a minus 9, right, and then f over g, so we can just do square root, right, so you have a quantity, so maybe I'll do this fraction. So on top you have a 5 minus x, and on the bottom you would have x squared and minus 9. Alright, so we have all these functions, then we have to find the domain of that. So let's find that. Alright, so first we have to find the domain of each. So let's find d sub f. So this is a domain of function f. Alright, so domain of function f, in order to find that, we just make sure that this 5 minus x is greater than or equal to 0. So let's solve that. So 5 minus x is greater than or equal to 0. So we need to isolate that. Isolate x. We can add x to both sides. So it's a 5 is greater than or equal to x. Right? So it's x is less than or equal to 5. So it's going to be negative infinity all the way to 5, and we include 5 because there's equality there. Alright, how about the domain of g? Alright, so in this case we need to make sure that x squared minus 9 is greater than or equal to 0. Right, so we have x squared minus 9 is greater than or equal to 0. Right, so let's solve the equality first. So x squared minus 9, we can factor this out as x plus 3 times x minus 3, and set that equal to 0. So this will give us, let's see, x equals negative 3 and positive 3. So if you draw a number line, right, then you put the negative 3 here and the positive 3. Right, so you can check any sample number. So for example, you can try x equals anything smaller than 3, so it's a negative 4 or something like that. Then if you apply in negative 4, square would be positive 16 minus 9, so that's actually a positive here. Right, so if you try x equals 0, and obviously 0 minus 9 is negative. Alright, and something bigger than 3 would be, well, try 4. Again, 4 squared minus 9 is positive, so positive here. Alright, So which means that this expression is positive here and a positive there, and a 0 at -3 and the positive 3. So we know that the domain is going to be starting from -3 and down, and starting from positive 3 up, right? So the domain of this guy would be -infinity to -3, including 3, and start up from 3 all the way to positive infinity. Alright, so in order to find the domain for f plus g and f minus g and f times g, these are all the same, and this is just the intersection of domain of f and a domain of g, right? So let's take the intersection of these two guys. So this is a domain of g in red, and then we want to have a domain of f. It says that it has to be less than or equal to 5. So 5 is going to be probably around here, right? Then we want to intersect that with, so I have to use a different color, so I'm going to use a blue. So it's going to starting from here and down, right? So you can see that there's going to be an intersection. Intersection is going to be 3 to 5 and less than equal to -3. So this intersection would be -infinity to -3 including 3, and between 3 and 5, right? And only different one would be a domain of f over g, right? Because this guy, we have to eliminate the x value where the denominator, in this case g of x, is equal to 0. So we know that when x equals -3 and +3, and this guy becomes 0, so we have to eliminate -3 and +3. So that way, so you have everything the same, except that this one we cannot include -3, and the +3 we have to exclude that as well, and then you have 5 is included. Alright, so let's type those guys in. Alright, so domain here would be -infinity to -3 and inclusive, right? Then union, so there should be a union somewhere, so a union, and then you have to start from +2 to 5, right? So you have the same domain for f minus g, so just type in the same thing, -infinity, comma, -3, and close. Then you have union, and then you have 3 to 5. Alright, and the same thing for multiplication, and so you have a -infinity and to -3 bracket, and union with 3, 5, right? Then for the last one, we just have to eliminate -3 and +3, so it's very similar, but it's going to be infinity, so it's -3, but put the parenthesis and the union, and then you have a 3 with a parenthesis and a 5 with the square bracket, right? So that's those are the domains. So let's check. Submit for testing. Alright, it came back and looks like we got all these guys correctly. Alright, that's it. I hope that this was clear.